What did they say? Something about not talking about politics or religion. About that. Episode 76, Two Chaps, Many Cultures. We never really do as we're told, do we? You know.
Well, me? I wouldn't be where I am today if I always did as I was told. No. So we're not supposed to talk about religion and politics. And what was the other thing?
Oh, I don't know. Is it sex, religion, politics?
Oh, that, yeah. So let's talk about all of this within the right context. I would say, yes. I'm since I come from a culture that is no holds barred when it comes to conversation topics. For me, all of this is fair game. Granted that there is the right context and the right people with whom I've established enough trust and rapport that I myself feel comfortable talking about it, and I have at least a sense that they are comfortable talking about it as well. So religion, huh?
Yeah, well, actually not really. I mean, we kind of cheated a little bit. We're not talking about the religion. I mean, either of us are probably, armed with the right doctrinal education and training in these areas to talk about any of that kind of stuff. But what we're talking about is something that I thought that comes up quite a lot with clients. If they do practice of faith and they ask the questions about, I'm going to this country, do you know anything about the way that a community builds itself around my particular faith practice? Okay. And I find that in general, that is sometimes driven by culture. For example, with a Catholic church, just one example, Catholic church here in the US, very participatory for the laity. There's clubs and there's fundraisers. There's a lot of activity that goes into supporting the priest and other religious that are in the church. And it's a way, when people come here, I say it's a way to go there. Even if you don't regularly go in your home country, maybe this is a way to go and connect over something that ostensibly is something you share, but it may be an opportunity to tap into a network of friends and potential acquaintances when you get to the country. Now, in the reverse, it may not work because the country you go to, and there's many like this, may not practice that faith in the same way. It's the same doctrine, it's the same faith, but there's not as much of that lay participation. So therefore, it's kind of an empty bowl when it comes to being able to get relationships going.
And I think this is a very valid, I want to call it tool, but a behavioral pattern that helps establish community abroad. If you bring with you the necessary flexibility to accept that even though it carries the same name or the same label or logo on it, like Catholicism or Buddhism or Islam or Shintoism or whatever faith practice you follow, that just because it's carrying the same name and logo or identifiers doesn't always mean that it's being lived in the same way. So I had this, and I had a learning experience during a cultural training I did many years ago for a couple from Indonesia. They were moving from Jakarta to the southeastern United States. They were a bit advanced in age compared to the quote-unquote typical expatriate age, so they already had adult children that they did not bring with them. So it was just husband and wife. And they came from Jakarta, and the wife did not speak much English. And where they live, where they practice their faith, the mosque will be in Bahasa Indonesia. There will be an Indonesian language, right? So the mosques that they found in the United States there was a limited number in that fairly smallish community, and what community there was based on Arabic teachings, right? So of course every devout believer of Islam knows how to read the Quran, and they learn by rote memorization the Arabic phrases or teachings. But the conversation that happens at that mosque, the community building, was either in English or in Arabic, and two languages that the wife was not very conversant in. So the community building, despite the fact that there's the same faith, already came with obstacles, right? So it's not always a given that this will work smoothly. You got to bring some level of flexibility with you to make that work.
Yeah, and these are often things that we don't put in our checklist. You know, we're packing socks and underpants and all this kind of stuff, and we're filling out forms and we're doing visas and we're booking tickets, and then you sit back and you go, well, what am I going to do when I get there, and what are some of the things I can do to connect myself to the community? And the other aspect is that there might be charity organisations that you're interested in serving. You might think, well, I'm going as a spouse or even as the assignee, and you're saying to yourself, well, I'm going to use maybe some spare time to serve the community. And if you go to a country that, by its very nature, those kind of things are provided by the government, and there's not a lot of organisations. This has often happened where clients have said, I've searched online for some non-government NGOs or things like this that I can go and serve, and they're kind of like low key because they're not really needed. There is a safety net provided by the government in that system, wherever it is. So there's that aspect. These are all kind of like reminders of the things that you would normally just automatically put on a checklist, but you know, if you do some active research before you go, and reach out to maybe some of your colleagues that you're going to work with that may be of the same faith and that kind of thing. This is just another, as Christian says, a great tool, you know, but it is, again, maybe an opportunity if you've not been practicing your faith and you felt you haven't had the time to do it. Maybe it's another activity that you go back and connect with the faith. And I've had many clients say, you know, I've really connected with the faith. Say, I think it would be wonderful for somebody who practices Islam to go and live in the Middle East. It would be wonderful, right? It'd be an opportunity to really connect at the roots of the faith. And so there's opportunities everywhere, but it's just kind of reflecting on these in the busy hustle, you know, getting ready, which is sometimes difficult.
Right. And when we talk about faith, we deliberately chose the word faith over religion, because faith can be more than religion. Faith can be synonymous for a set of beliefs. And a belief is a feeling of certainty. You're certain how you feel about something. It is almost unshakable. It's standing on robust legs of evidence. It's like a table. Picture a table with multiple legs under it, and all the legs are the pieces of evidence that support the tabletop. That is your belief. That is your feeling of certainty, and that does not necessarily have to be religious. It can be your belief in protecting the environment, or your belief in physical well-being. It could be your belief in some sort of societal activism. Whatever drives you, whatever gets you out of bed, I would almost say, except for work and your children, if you have children, whatever motivates you to go the extra mile, that could be in that faith area, that you find a group of like-minded people, that you find a community within the culture that you're entering that is aligned with your faith, with your sets of beliefs. And a cultural coach, a cultural trainer a destination services provider can help you find these groups. You may have to do some research on your own, and the labels with which these groups, I don't want to say advertise themselves or make themselves known, may not be the same as they do in your home country. I remember being on a service trip with an NGO, with a nonprofit organization from the United States. It was a female-led group that is doing good around the world, and the male spouses were also invited to go on this service trip. And we went through a couple of countries in Europe, and we were in Spain, and actually, to be precise, in Catalonia and Barcelona. And we served at a nonprofit that, from its name and its appearance, would have not rung the bell for me. I would have not recognized it as the purpose that they're serving. Turns out they were serving refugee women from the Middle East, mainly from the Syrian civil war conflict and the surrounding areas. And that was a wonderful experience to connect with people abroad, even though I did not enter Barcelona as an expatriate or somebody who would stay there for an extended period of time. Simply going there for that service project, to be of service to a value and a belief that is important to me, allowed me to connect with people across cultures and across a significant language gap that I was trying to maneuver. Right?
Yeah, well, it's and you wrote and Mark said here in the comments that well-being, and we're talking about people use faith for centeredness and finding themselves, finding some peace, finding some space in the world, and they can be physical or spiritual. So again, why not use this as an opportunity to either within your own faith practice, whatever that looks like, as Christian points out, but also outside of that, where there might be other things that you can do, which is broadening the spectrum of how you can make the experience of being an expat or being a foreigner for an extended period of time in a country that little bit more manageable, because it is an experience full of stress and something that really knocks us about. So we wouldn't normally maybe practice it at home because we feel that we don't need it, and we're comfortable, we're in our own environment. But outside of that, there may be an argument to do that. And what better way than to serve your fellow man? I'm thinking.
And for me, this was, I'm going to be really transparent here. So yes, I was raised in a faith tradition. Like yourself, Brett, I was raised in the Catholic tradition. However, I was not brought up to be a church-going individual, or I transitioned into adulthood without becoming a church-going person. So I would describe myself as spiritually aware and religiously skeptical when it comes to organized religion, whenever there is humans and their power dynamics informing religious doctrine. That's where my alarms go up. So where I'm a little bit more cautious.
Culture,
and
you
when
might
say. Yes, I might. And when my family and I, when we moved to the United States many moons ago, we moved into a conservative religious area of the United States, however, not Catholic. And I was quickly told that if I wanted to succeed in that environment, I think I'm paraphrasing it very simply, if you want to do business on Monday, people need to see your face in the pew on Sunday. Oh. And so I went to church, and it was not Catholic, and it was not around my belief systems, and it was not an easy experience for me. It was, I felt like I was almost pretending to be somebody else. I was extending my cultural flexibility to a level where I almost overextended myself, and I felt inauthentic in doing so. So it took me a long time to come to terms with that. So not always will your faith foundation, your belief system, translate 100% into a related or a similar faith system in the other culture, just because it is sailing under the flag of Christianity does not, or Islam or Judaism or Buddhism or whatever mainstream religion you follow, simply because it's flying under the same flag does not always mean that the culture is the same, that the everyday practices are the same, and that you will instantly feel at home. So it takes some adjustment on your behalf, and the onus is on us as the ones who are transitioning into the other culture, because they already are happy with the way they're doing it. So me entering that space, I need to decide for myself, do I fit in there or do I not?
Yeah, well, you bring up a great point, because just like navigating a supermarket with different products and different labels and different languages, you are going into something which is ostensibly foreign too. So you can overdo it. You can go in there assuming that it's going to be comfortable or a great way to do it, but it may not necessarily turn out that way. So you've always got to test the waters. You've always got to test your assumptions, just as you would do in business, just as you would do in public life as well. So that's also a good thing to keep in mind, for sure. Absolutely.
Well, and since the church connection didn't work out for me, that's the end of that story. What did work out is what you said in the beginning, Brett. The getting involved with something charitable or something that serves the community in a certain way. And for me, it was, and for our entire family, it was when a natural disaster struck our area. So we lived in a part of the United States where we were confronted with severe weather, and there was a week when tornadoes came through our area, and some of them were really disastrous, and they tore lives apart and people's homes apart, and we found ourselves being thrown into this as outsiders who had never seen anything like this. Where I grew up, we didn't have weather like this, and now we found ourselves volunteering regardless of the belief systems. And there were people who fell on this side of the belief aisle and others who fell on that side of the belief aisle. There was the socially and morally conservative people and the liberal people, and it didn't matter, because when your roof is gone and your house is flattened by a tornado, then none of that matters. Other things become much more important. So that was when, that week after our involvement in that recovery process, that's when I felt I was fully embraced by the community that I had entered, because I did not stand by. I became a part of it in the darkest hour. That's what allowed me to become part of a close-knit community that wasn't really comfortable in allowing outsiders into their group. It doesn't always take a disaster to make that happen, but this just serves as an example.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's hope it doesn't take a disaster for you to do that. That's definitely, we're not wishing for that at all, but sometimes it does, unfortunately. Really, we're humans, and we go about our day-to-day business, and when things are good, and we might neglect our fellow human around us, and then when something goes wrong and we see people in pain and suffering, then that's the time we're called upon, right? And a lot of people do go to their faith in these times. And you're right, when they go to their faith, it not necessarily means that you have to share that faith. It's just the belief in common man, whether you believe in a God or not. It can exist in all levels. So we'd be interested to hear from you. I mean, what's your experience moving countries, transferring your faith practice to one to the other? How did it work out? Because obviously we don't know it all, obviously, and we really rely on the experiences of people like you, and of course the many clients that we work through share their experiences, but we can always add more. Absolutely.
Yes, please. Bring it on.
Bring it on. Fantastic. Well, that's another Monday. Episode 76. We're getting close to 80. I love the number 80. I love all numbers 80, which, bit of a hint, we're going to talk about numbers coming up in the next decade of episodes. The next decade, that's right.
We're going to hit 100 soon. That's going to be a reason to celebrate. We need to think about something. We need to do some kind of contest or something. We'll discuss offline. You'll find out, folks. You'll find out.
Need to get the decorators in for Two Chaps Towers, because do that ahead of time. Don't leave it till last minute. Christmas is coming. I mean, they've got to know where to pin the tinsel too. So, oh my goodness. Anyway,
now you know it. Christmas is coming. You've been warned. Okay. Ignore the Halloween, ignore the Thanksgiving, or whatever other festivities you have going on in your part of the world. Christmas is coming. Brett told you so.
Yes.
Have a wonderful Monday or rest of your Monday. Let's rock this week. We'll see you again tomorrow. Two Chaps, many cultures. Ciao for now.